Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus, and welcome back to the Acting and Modeling Success Summit. We have an incredible guest. His name is Tom Logan. This guy is just amazing. He started off in the business as an actor. He appeared in soaps, TV shows, and films and theater, and now he writes, produces, directs films and TV shows, and he's actually directed hundreds of national and international commercials. He's also the author of 4 best-selling books, and you can read about them. You can order them at Barnes & Noble. You can get them on Kindle. You can go to Amazon. Welcome, Tom Logan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Aaron. It's good hearing your voice.
Thank you. I know Tom's out on location. He's getting ready to shoot a TV series, so we're going to kind of go pretty quickly here. Hey, Tom, maybe you can let people know what exactly is the process for getting the commercial done. As the director, who would you get the phone call from, and who would be hiring you?
Well, first of all, the ad agency, J. Walter Thompson or some major ad agency comes up with an idea, a plan, then gets in touch with the director, and I sit down with the art director and the people from the ad agency, and we go through, come up with some storyboards and shots and how we want it shot. And the next process is...
Actually, excuse me, Tom, would you explain what a storyboard is?
A storyboard is we draw little pictures of every shot so we can see how it's going to edit and how it's going to all cut together. And many times when actors go on auditions, they will actually see a storyboard, and it gives them an idea of just visually where we're headed. So after we do that, we then contact the casting director. The casting director contacts the agents. The agents contact the actors come in and audition, and then I sit down with the client. We go through the auditions and pick the cast.
Now, I guess one of the hard things is for actors, we're looking at the copy, which are the words to the TV commercial. We walk in, we look at the storyboards if they have them, so we can get like a general sense of what's going on. But quite often, we really don't know what you're looking for. So when an actor walks in to the audition, are there any questions that you think would be very helpful for the actor to ask?
Well, first of all, you know why it's called copy, and the reason is because the original people who wrote commercials were copywriters for newspapers and magazine ads. That's why it's called copy. To answer your question, one thing you should never ask is what we're looking for, because number one, we don't know. Number two, nobody in the room agrees with what we're looking for, and number three, whenever we find what we're looking for, we'll never cast it. So for an actor to try to figure out, we're wasting your time. We haven't figured it out. When an actor comes in and asks us what we're looking for, that's kind of akin to me being a plumber and coming to your house and saying, well, now, Aaron, how do you want these pipes connected? I mean, I can use plastic, I can use copper. I mean, what do you think? Well, the plumber is the expert. We consider you, the actor, the expert. Now, there are, however, some questions you can ask that are not how to audition or what are you looking for questions, and they're research questions. You could say something to the effect of, is there something about this script that you want me to know? Is there something about this character you want to tell me? That's fine. That's like me being a plumber and coming to you and saying, well, Aaron, when you turn the water on, do you get pressure? Do you get hot water? Do you get cold water? Those are research. Research questions are real different than asking us how to play a part. Never ask that question.
I guess another great question would be, if it is a commercial, if you're not 100% sure how to pronounce the name of the product, I would think that would be a real good one, because I could imagine people losing a job very quickly simply by mispronouncing the name of the what's being sold.
You would hope not. They should ask before they come into the audition, actually before they get in there. But I would hope someone wouldn't lose an audition over that. Now, you could be right in that clients themselves are very picky, and I'm looking for who's best for the job, not whether they pronounce one word right, that I could explain it to them and then they could pronounce it. But you got to look at the client. The client is real particular about his product, so that could have some impact.
So after the audition takes place, the actor walks out of the room, and you might be sitting there with the art creative director, the copywriter, the client, the casting director. I mean, there could be a number of people involved. What are you guys talking about once we walk out?
Well, a lot of times the casting director's not involved at that point. Sometimes they are, but generally that's the client, the director. And what we're going through is how we see this visually. They'll tell me, they think this guy looks Coca-Cola, this guy looks McDonald's-like, and I'll say, yeah, but he can't act, or vice versa. It's just a general discussion on what is best visually for this commercial shoot.
Now, for your situation, I know you are unusual in the sense of you're normally there for the initial audition, correct?
I am one of the few people who like to sit through and at least, or view at least, every person that came in, because sometimes, you know, you teach acting, so do I. And when you teach acting, sometimes you can see that the actor may not be a good auditioner, but could be a good actor. And a lot of times clients don't really see that. They kind of see what they see. For instance, if someone came in and they were supposed to be a hillbilly and they're wearing a suit and tie, which would be inappropriate, of course, I can look past that visually and see it. But a lot of times the client goes, hey, looks too businesslike. Whereas if we just dressed them differently, the client would probably go for it. So generally the clients a lot of times aren't as creative as the director, and so I like to look at everybody. And many times we've ended up going with someone that would have been rejected in the beginning.
You know, speaking of wardrobe, what are your thoughts about, you know, an actor's coming in reading for the role of a doctor and he comes in with a lab coat? Is that...
Well, you don't have to hit us over the head, but you also want to suggest. I mean, for instance, if we're coming as a farmer, you don't have to come in overalls with a straw, you know, out of your mouth with a bottle of, you know, tequila and missing 6 teeth. But you wouldn't want to come in a coat and tie either. I mean, you know, some jeans that are kind of, you know, farmy looking, and some shoes that would be appropriate for a farm. That's fine. You don't have to, you know, if someone's coming in for Santa Claus, they don't have to have the whole red outfit, and it's okay, I guess, if they do, but you don't really have to hit them over the head. But you do have to suggest heavily.
You know, it's funny because it seems like in different markets it's done differently. I've heard, because I don't work in the LA market very often, that it's better to really dress it down so that way you don't look as desperate. It's like you really don't care. You're reading for a doctor. You come in flip-flops, T-shirts, and, you know, shorts because you're that, you know, you're that good.
Well, that might be pushing it. But if you're coming for a doctor, I wouldn't come in flip-flops and shorts. However, LA is a lot more laid back than other markets, and you don't have to hit us over the head in LA.
And so how does it work? So let's say somebody comes in, they read, people are really interested, and I know like for certain projects you might have a callback.
Right, well, most. Yeah.
For most. And once again, in your situation, if you're watching the initial audition, you might not have to do that. Although sometimes I'm assuming that if you have a commercial and there are 2 people or 3 people, you might want to mix and match people also just to see whether, you know, they have a good chemistry and they're working together and they look good together, which means I guess you might have to have a callback, right?
Well, yes, you hit it right between the eyes there, because what happens is it's not how good the actors are individually. It's how good they are together. I mean, for instance, if you take any TV show, it's not how good, take a sitcom, it's not how good those actors are individually, it's how good they are together. I mean, look at some old TV shows. What happened to the people in Happy Days with 1 or 2 exceptions? Where are the people from Laverne and Shirley? I guess the Friends cast has done some things, especially Jennifer Aniston, but basically a lot of times these people you never hear from again. Or you see them in a show and you think they're really brilliant, then you go out and watch them in a movie or some other show and you go, gosh, what happened to them? They used to be really good. Well, they were good with those people. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Beatles. I think they play brilliant music, but separately I don't think they're very good. That's just me. But I'm just saying someone can be really good together but not good separately. A marriage you might have a horrible guy. He's an idiot. He's a fool. Nobody likes him. You got this woman. Nobody likes her. She's crazy. Put them together. They have a great marriage. And he's prom king and she's the prom queen. Everybody likes both of them. They make a lot of money and they're very prosperous and good people, and they have a disaster. So it's not really how good the people are individually, it's how good they are together, and you cannot know that just by seeing them individually. So you're correct in what you said, yes.
And so now for commercials, unlike a film or a TV show, would it be really unusual to have more than one callback?
No, it wouldn't. Yeah,
So
not sometimes.
you could have multiple callbacks for TV commercials as well.
Yes, you could. I've done 2 and 3. Yeah.
And then, do you know, according to, I'm trying to remember, is it after like this the second callback where you actually have to start paying the actor if they're
Well,
in the union?
yes, I believe we get you one time, then we get you one more time, and I believe it's the next time, which would be the third. I'm not real up on those because the casting directors and those kind of people keep up with that, but I believe that's correct.
Now, have you ever been in a situation where an actor comes in and they're reading with somebody else? And actually, this has happened to me where it was very clear the other actor pretty much only had a stage background, and we're standing right next to each other, and instead of just talking to me, you know, as if they are 3 inches away, they're trying to hit the back row.
Yeah.
And the audition just felt so bad, just because it was silly. You know, they're screaming at me, and I'm having a regular conversation with them. And my intuition, which I did not follow, my intuition was as soon as that actor walked out of the room, I wanted to walk over to the casting director and say, hey, would it be okay if I read this with somebody else? And I've never done that because I was kind of afraid that I might insult somebody. But
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, you never want to put down another actor because you never know who's doing what to whom. And I've learned this lesson many times. So you never want to put someone down. And the first question is, can another actor ruin you? Absolutely. I mean, if you go see a play and there's 10 people in it and 9 are brilliant and 1's terrible, does that pull the play down? Absolutely. If you have a dinner party and there's 10 couples and 9 are having a fabulous time, but one couple's screaming and yelling at each other, talking about divorce and having a food fight, which actually might be kind of interesting, that would probably ruin the whole party. So first of all, yes, another person can ruin you. Secondly, what you can do, and this is a last-ditched effort, and this is only if the person is really bad, so bad that it's just so obvious. And I don't mean borderline bad. I mean this is a last-ditched effort. You could walk to the door and let the other actor go out the door first. Wait till they're out of earshot and turn to the group and very nicely say, may I read it with someone else? No put down, no explanation. It should be obvious why you're asking without being rude.
Now, has there ever been a situation where that took place, where one actor just clearly was not very good in that situation, and you said, hey, would you mind, after the other person left, hey, would you mind sticking around? I'd like to have you read for with somebody else because you saw something there and you want to really get an opportunity to match them up with somebody else.
It happens, but rarely. And it happens, but not. I can kind of tell if the other person's bad and the one person's good, so that won't affect me too much. But you got a client there, and they're not as savvy about actors as you and I would be. Also, sometimes I've had people ask if they could read it again with someone else, and I've said no. But that's not necessarily a bad sign. Maybe they're really good, and at this point, I think I'm going to call them back, and I don't want to give them a chance to screw it up. For instance, sometimes you date someone, and you just go out on the weekends, and everything's great, and then you go spend 2 weeks on a vacation when you come back, and you don't like them anymore. Or you're good friends in high school because you just play around, at school and all that together. Then you go to college and roommate, and then you come out of there not liking the person after the first year. So sometimes I will say no, only because I think they're right for this at this point, and I don't want to give them a chance to change my mind.
Now, if somebody is interested in directing, what kind of process would they go through? Is it best just to try to work as a production assistant on sets and just watch and ask questions, or are there other ways that somebody can get involved in being a director?
Yes, 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 and yes. Now, when I was young, we didn't have all the, the editing stuff they can do now and all the stuff they can shoot digitally, and we didn't have all that kind of stuff. We didn't have YouTube, and there's so much more opportunity today. I would suggest that they get a camera and start shooting like crazy, just on their own, shooting, going in their computer and editing. And you got to know everybody's job. You don't have to be brilliant at everybody's job, and you want to hire people that know more about the job than you do, or that particular job. But you got to know enough to know if they're doing their job, and if something happened, you could take over. So what you suggested, being a production assistant, it is a great way, because you start learning everybody's job, and you just got to know everybody's job, because you are solely responsible as a director for everything that happens on that set. I mean, if something happens with a film, or a truck gets in a wreck on the way there, director is solely responsible and accepts that responsibility. It's kind of like the contractor of a house. If you build the house and there's something wrong with the electricity, you don't go back and find the electrician. You go to the contractor and say, hey, you need to fix this. So you really need to know everybody's job. As far as films, if you know someone with a lot of money and they'll give it to you to direct, you're directing. That's not the way I did it, but there are people who do it that way. It's kind of chancy. You're probably going to lose the person's money if you don't really do your homework and know everybody's job, but you could be directing tomorrow if you had millions of dollars.
But as far as doing if somebody has a real attraction to doing commercials,
that's different. That's your film. Yeah, for commercials and television, that's different. You got to be hired by someone, and they've got to see your work first. So would that also mean just try to shoot as many demos as you can, try to create your own commercials, shoot them, and then start showing them around? Sure, and wherever they are locally, they should try to be shooting local commercials, so they get some real commercials behind them, not just kind of phony stuff that they put together that's sometimes real obvious.
And so that would mean going to advertising agencies, or maybe even just going to the companies directly.
Yeah, the companies go to the TV stations. Most companies go to the local TV station to get commercials done, have the TV station write them and put them together for them in smaller markets.
Now, kind of getting back to the actor on the commercials, when somebody walks in, because sometimes I know, like, I am able to get the copy the day before. Quite often, though, at least for commercials, I don't see anything until I show up onto the to the casting office. So, I mean, my thought is, if I can memorize the copy, then I will. But that's not a major priority for me, because typically there can be so much going on. I mean, a lot of people just don't realize how complicated a commercial can be. I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, first of all, the reason you don't get the script a lot of times in advance, if I'm doing a McDonald's commercial, we don't want Burger King to know what we're doing. Companies can send in spies and actors and find out what we're doing. We're just real careful that we don't.
That really happens?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, should you memorize it? There's some real disadvantages to memorizing it. First of all, most people don't memorize something quickly very well, and so they don't really look into the camera and talk, or to the person. They're staring. We see this kind of stare. That's number one. Number two, sometimes we get this little jerk in their eyes. And what that is when you memorize something quickly, you visually see the script in your mind. You could tell me every line break. You could tell me if there was a check mark on that page, because you have photographed that page. And so they're reading across in their mind, and then their eyes drop down to the next line, and we get this little jerk sometimes in their eyes. It's really weird, and it's very subtle, but it's distracting. Also, if you memorize something, my suggestion would be, it's not a memory contest. Nobody's impressed. Unless they also memorize it, which is, I believe, illegal by the Screen Actors Guild bylaws, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But the other thing is if you memorize it and you come in and you do it, that's a performance. You're telling us that's as good as it's going to get. If you come in and you glance at the script a couple of times, even if you haven't memorized, that's a cold reading. Psychologically, cold readings are going to get better and performances are not. So a lot of times someone will walk out and they'll turn to me and go, wow, that was a great cold reading. I can't wait to see his performance. So sometimes we give you more for the fact that you don't know it. So I'm sure you could debate that issue up and down all over, but that's my personal belief.
Well, actually, I follow the same philosophy, and the other reason too is if you get locked into the copy, and you walk in, and all of a sudden they changed a couple of words, which certainly can happen from what I've received to what's they're asking for now. That will just throw you off. At least it would. It would throw me off tremendously. So I do. I'm sorry. What was that?
It will throw anybody off, and that's why when you go in, if you've had a script and they have cue cards or it's on a machine or whatever, ask to read through it once because the line breaks are going to be at different places. If there's been any change, we can easily change it on a script, but to go in and change a cue card or the machine where we type it in takes time and a lot of times doesn't get done. So you could even be reading a different script when you go in.
Yeah, and also it allows you, if it is on screen, it allows you to kind of play with whoever is moving the lines, and hopefully they will follow you instead of you having to follow them. And no, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
hey, Tom, I was just going to say we're kind of running out of time, and we do have some questions that have come in, so I definitely want to get to a couple of the questions before we finish up. Let's see. There is one from, let's see. This is from Cali, New Mexico. He wants to know, would you recommend that an actor audition for commercials if they really want to do film and TV work?
Absolutely. There are times way back, maybe 20, 30 years ago, they were real separate kind of, not anymore. I see people in a commercial sometimes and find out who that person was and get them the idea is exposure, and absolutely they should. I mean, you do a TV show, you will not get the exposure that you would get in a commercial that airs constantly.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, and the other thing too, I mean, depending on the type of commercial it is, it can allow you not to have a secondary job for quite a long time.
Absolutely.
That's where union actors make the most money. It's through television commercials.
Well, more money is made by actors in commercials than television, film, and theater.
Yeah. I've got another question here from Jason in Georgia. When doing a commercial audition for a specific product, like a cell phone, would it be better to hold a real phone or have an imaginary phone in your hand?
Unless it really calls for a prop, I wouldn't do either. It gets distracting. Someone's got this hand stick. If it says you have a cell phone in your hand, I would use a real cell phone. Pantomime, I mean, we're not doing more so here. So if you want to use, if it calls for you to have one, then use it. But like, for instance, if the commercial says these funny-looking French fries are called deep-fried French fries, you don't need to hold your hand there and shake, show the French fry. You could just glance down like they're sitting on a table. But the less distraction you have away from your face, the better.
Yeah, I know, because like when I've watched people audition, and they're kind of pantomiming something, that's where my eyes go, and I want to see: are they going to hold on to that phone? Are they going to drop the grape? Are they holding on to the can of something? And then I kind of lose watching their performance because I'm so intrigued to see what they're going to do with that object.
Yeah, and inadvertently, what they'll do is drink with their hands, open, and then just drop their hand. The glass goes. If there had been a glass, I'm thinking it's all over the floor now. I try not to do that. I mean, obviously, we're just trying to pick the best person for the job, but it is distracting, and I would recommend against. Unless you have. Now, by the way, if it says you're talking into a telephone, it would look weird just to be talking in thin air, unless it was supposedly on a cell phone with a thing in your ear, and it's supposed to be a landline. Then then you can, if you have. In other words, it's a last resort to pantomime.
Now, would it be a legitimate question for, someone to ask you, like, I'm supposed to be talking on a cell phone. I've got a cell phone. Do you want me to hold it or not bother with it?
Absolutely, you could ask something like that. Of course, absolutely.
Well, listen, Tom, we're going to have to wrap this up. I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this summit. Um, for people who want to learn more about Tom, you can go to IMDb and you can look him up and you will see a tremendous amount of information about Tom Logan. Also, you can go to his website. It's tomlogan.com and you can read all about him as well. And just on a little side note, I don't know if you throw this out, but I always find this really amazing. Tom's a pilot too, and it's really, really incredible with all the things that you're a real Renaissance guy. You really
Yeah,
are, and it's really,
great to
it's
know that.
it's really amazing. So,
Well, I
anyhow, Tom,
appreciate it. Yeah, I guess
absolutely.
the easiest way to look up somebody, as you mentioned, is just Google their name and then IMDb, which stands for Internet Movie Database, of course, after their name. And you can read all kinds of information. There's trivia about the person. There's just all kinds of information. Or if you're watching a movie, you could type into IMDb, type in the name of the movie and then IMDb, or go to IMDb and then type in the movie. And you'll learn all kind of things about the movie as you're watching the movie. It gives you all kind of trivia. So it's a very interesting site.
And it's a great research tool if you're auditioning for a project and that director has done a lot of work. You can find out what kind of work they've done so you can be more prepared to audition for that particular director.
And as an addendum to that, I love flying. As you said, I'm a commercial pilot. I don't fly commercially, but I have for a year. I took off show business. But someone reads, that I'm into flying and they're into flying. We start talking about flying, and all of a sudden we're in there 20 or 30 minutes as opposed to talking about just their credits, which I've already researched before they come in anyway.
Yeah. Well, Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we're going to take just a couple of minute break. At the end of the day, for people who have any additional questions, I will stick around and try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. So, Tom, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you, and keep up the good work with the stuff that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.